Hello and welcome to Toast Talk 95. My name is Shahrukh Hussain. I'm the manager PR for District 95. Toast Talk 95 is District 95's very own podcast where we peel the curtain and show you the people behind it. But today's episode is especially special. It is my pleasure to introduce to you the Area B4 champion for 2024 and 2023 and 2022. Wow, Mariya Bokova has been busy winning the championships. That's amazing. Hi, Mariya. Congratulations once again.
Hello, Sharu. Thank you for having me, and thank you for congratulating me. This is really it has been a huge honor to actually participate in this contest.
Fantastic. The concept behind today's episode is that we actually help people understand what goes in the behind the curtains of the champion's life, or the participant's life. So Maria has been doing this for a very long time. We'll start off with her background that she'd like to share, and then we'll get into her process, and we learn as we are always learning and without teachers in Toastmasters. So, Maria, something about yourself, where you're from, that you want to share about your background.
Yes, I have been living in Norway for the past 20 years. So I come originally from Bulgaria, and we are very much performance focused. And when I came to Norway, I realized that performance is not the most important thing. So when I founded Toastmasters in 2015, I was like, wow, this is the place for me. So 2015 was the year that gave me a lot of change, actually had a lot of changes. And one of the changes that were positive changes was actually becoming a Toastmasters member. And since then, I have been a board member, club officer. And for the past 3 years, I actually got this inspiration to compete for some reason, because you need to learn, you need to develop and grow. And Toastmasters is the best place to learn, develop, and grow.
Wow, it is inspiring. So, 20 years out in Norway, and out of which around 9 years as part of Toastmasters. Now, I always ask this question. It's my favorite question to ask everyone in the interviews. When you've already said that you came across Toastmasters, there's always an amazing story behind this. Can you share that? When was the first time and what did you learn? How did you find out about Toastmasters?
Okay, so I was trying out different voluntary organizations here in Norway, and I was a member, or tried to become a member for one in 2014, but they took a long time to process my application. And 6 months later, I became a member of their organization, and it seemed so chaotic and so disorganized, and no one knew anything. And I felt like I was wasting my time, but I wanted to somehow contribute, just have some sort of outlet for my creativity. And there was this guy who was a member of that chaotic organization that introduced me to the Toastmasters. And the very first meeting, I was terribly impressed. This was like, these people are so organized. Is it possible? But definitely the first meeting at Toastmasters made a huge impression on me. The way things were organized, the way things were carried out, the way things were conducted. Definitely from then on, I decided to become a member. And it took only 2 weeks to process, to get to have my application processed. Yes.
Oh, okay. We're all Toastmasters and we say we're adaptable and we're patient because sometimes in some clubs it gets delayed and sometimes it doesn't. And it's just adaptability and patience just go hand in hand and they connect to being a Toastmasters more than anything. And thank you for sharing that. My next question is that this is a voluntary organization, and you're not only a member of one club, you're a member of two clubs. So, Oslo Toastmasters Club and Saturday Breakfast Club. So, can you tell something about both the clubs? Because this is very unique to you. I've had people come in who were members of a couple of clubs, but now they're just one club. So, can you share about the favorite things about both clubs And what made you decide to become a member of two clubs?
So in 2015, I became a member of Oslo Toastmasters Club. Obviously, it was the only club in Norway, and it was luckily accessible. But I needed some sort of a bigger place, a place where people were more advanced, because in our club, at some point, people or members tended to leave, and we're kind of still struggling with this, right? So I wanted to see what an advanced club looked like. But everything was very much in person. And before the pandemic, it was difficult to go to Sweden because the Saturday breakfast speakers are based in Sweden. And during the pandemic, I decided to visit a few clubs. One of them was the Saturday breakfast speakers. And at some point, I think last year, I decided I wanted to become a member because they have this more complicated, more deeper, complicated, detailed, well, not complicated, no, it's not the right word, it's more detailed feedback. So I was very impressed with the way they gave feedback. That's why I decided to visit all the meetings for a few years in a row. And last year, and I was inspired first and foremost by this world champion 2013, Pres Vasilev, who was a member of 6 clubs, and then he drove to 50 clubs that was in the US to actually improve and fine-tune his speech that he won with it. And I made a connection with him in one of the district conferences. So this was very inspirational to me. So you can be a member of a few clubs and you can take the best of all these clubs, because every club and every culture in every country, they have different ways of giving feedback. And like in Norway, we are kind of very kind to each other, and not so, we don't put pressure on performance, and we don't put pressure on how things should be. But if you go to other countries, Germany or Sweden, they will be very, very strict in terms of how they conduct a meeting, for example, or how they want you to improve in terms of your public speaking skills.
Yes, following the agenda, making sure, and yeah, we all feel bad when somebody goes overtime or ends under time, but kind of giving them a pat on the back later. But the rule is that they cannot be nominated for voting. So that's what it is. So I know that agendas are something very important. And as you mentioned, it kind of gives you an opportunity to think and reflect how to run your own life. Like recently, I was having a discussion, and that podcast is already live. And that was like, starting a club is like setting up an organization. You need to have the right team, you need to have someone managing people coming in the service, which is membership, and managing the funds. And like, why I'm saying this is that Mariya is not only just member of the two clubs, she's also a club officer. So being club officers, like I also was a club officer, now I'm a district officer, but Mariya is still a club officer. So that adds on to the journey, especially to help you develop difficult, uh, learning how to manage difficult decisions, leadership skills, how to say difficult things in a nicer way. And that's amazing. So how has your experience helped you in your personal journey as a club officer?
Well, since 2018, I have been in the board, club level, club officer. And I have learned quite a lot, because I have been a president, I have been a vice president of education, I have been a secretary. And this helped me in many ways. This was a very productive, very valuable experience to me in terms of the teamwork, how to communicate with people. As you said, Shahrukh, how to put things in a nicer, kinder way, in a more formulate things in a more positive way, so that people don't get offended or they get motivated. So it's been a learning experience, and I am very grateful to have been a part of our club board, because I get to speak a little freely. I get to say no. I will learn to say no if something is difficult. I get to practice in Oslo Toastmasters, or in a club, in a team meeting, or in a board meeting. I get to practice, and then it's easier in the real world to actually apply that knowledge and that experience when you are in a similar situation. Like you have to say no, you have to be more assertive, you have to be stricter, you have to try to put something forth, or just try to convince someone to do something, or just to actually fight for your own ideas or speak up. Definitely, it has helped me a lot.
Wow, those are the things. The connection between leadership and communication is very important, because you can be a leader that everybody may like but not listen to and not follow. The thing is, when you have your values and principles, that's what, and implement them, that's what actually makes you a better leader, a better human being in your personal and professional life. Thank you for sharing that. And now we come down to the journey. So before that, I know you help people with speeches as well. You've helped me as well in the past, giving feedback on speeches outside of the club meetings as well. So if you could share a few tips, because that will be really valuable for the for the listeners, and actually for the people who are viewing this podcast, the process of writing the speech. How do you do it? Is there a secret formula, or is it just things that you picked up over the past 9 years as Toastmasters?
Well, everyone obviously has a different process, but my process is more like I have an idea, and recently I have been focused on storytelling too much, and my goal has been to tell my story. And I know that this is probably the wrong way to approach this process of writing a speech, because many people start from the message. So you need to have the message to the audience, your punchline, and you start from there. But my process is completely the opposite. So I have this story, and I try to kind of attach a message to the audience that would be that story. So I have too many stories to tell, and sometimes I'm kind of struggling. What message can I give? What message can I attach to this story? So this is the basics of my way, my process, the way that I approach speech writing. But and obviously I tend to kind of do rehearse these things in my head until I get this form, until I get the shape that I like. And a lot of people start to writing this on a sheet of paper, and I tried this, it didn't work. But definitely I have a story. I try to formulate it in a way that would be interesting according to this message that I want to give to the audience. And then I try to refine it. And then maybe one of the most important thing is have someone read it or have someone listen to it, just to make sure that it makes sense, because you're stuck in your head and sometimes you don't really understand which is appropriate for the audience and what might not be so interesting, for example. But
Mm,
this is my process, and this has been working well so far. And one of the
yes.
things, in addition to storytelling, I have been, because storytelling is probably the best thing you can use if you want to relate to the audience, and the best way to connect to the audience as well. So storytelling and personal example is something that I always recommend people who tend to have this factual, very general, very emotionally flat speech. But it's always good to have introduce some emotion, just appeal to the senses, and have a personal example. So this is definitely the best advice that I could offer to anyone who would like to influence the
This is
audience. Or yeah.
really valuable advice, because it's coming from a person who's won consistently for 3 years the area level competition. And this is a very, very valuable information. Thank you for sharing that. And I'd like to uh, ask about a follow-up question about the process. So when you don't write, you practice the speeches on friends, or do you have like someone, like, if I want to give a speech, my children are my best audience, and because they're still learning, so they're not critical, and sometimes I want to practice without getting the feedback. So I would give myself feedback so I know what's working, what's not. Do you have a practice session, or somehow you practice?
No, I don't really have a practice. I don't have children or anyone that I can subject to this sort of torture. But I I try to kind of be critical, or at least just to first let my thoughts roam. This is the first thing that I do. I just let my thoughts roam. If I come up with a story, I tend to rehearse it, just to write it down, put it down, just to have not to forget it, and all the details I write it down, and I just focus maybe for an hour or two, just because my brain needs to kind of sometimes focus on something in particular. So I get to refine it in that process. I get to refine it and come up with details and more descriptions or more or different angles, just to think about how it could be interesting, what the audience would be interested in. And then I just try to contact some of my mentors to see if does it sound okay, like does it make any sense, or is it weird. And definitely also Toastmasters Club, the meetings at the club have been a great deal. I use them for rehearsing. I just tend to kind of do a speech there, and then I get the feedback. Was it too weird, or was it maybe interesting, or was it? So I get a lot of feedback from the club meetings. And of course, as we mentioned, if you're a member of many clubs, then you can get feedback. And if your story is kind of weird enough, you will get appropriate feedback. So I always trust the mentors from the Toastmasters. They will always give some good, valuable feedback, and you will be able to use it eventually.
Interesting. So yeah, that is amazing. Thank you for sharing that, Maria. This is really helpful, the process. I'm sure if people ever need help, they can come back to that portion of the podcast and learn about uh, speech writing and how to practice. That is fantastic. And I love that you already have mentors, because as a person, I had to learn to take feedback. For me, it was really difficult because every feedback in my mind was like, why didn't they like what I said? But now it's better because of Toastmasters. So let's talk about the journey, about the championship. How has that been? How have you prepared? You talk about speeches now. Winning and losing, they're both part of the journey. So how have you dealt with it? Obviously, people will say, "Oh, she won this area championship 3 times in a row. Wow!" But they have to realize that was the last 3 years. You've been a member for more than that time. So share that, and what made you've already shared that what inspired you to start participating in the competitions, but share a little bit about your journey.
Yes, 2 years ago, I won my first area contest, which was a surprise to me, a big one. I did it online, and I did not expect it. I did not expect it. But I wanted to learn about these things. I wanted to learn how to write a speech. And obviously, people in or our club, we were kind of very kind to each other. And I felt like I didn't get the necessary feedback to actually learn and grow. So I went to one of the world champions. So this is a secret I never shared with anyone. This could be a very expensive situation, but during the pandemic, I decided I would just invest my travel budget in a world champion. So I did
Wow.
meet. This is definitely, I never shared this. I tried to share this with our club last year because it's a once in a lifetime, because you cannot spend so much money on every year. It's just not affordable. But I thought, okay, I'm stuck in the middle of nowhere, and I cannot travel. So why don't I invest in something valuable, something that will give me back, actually return. There will
Very
be like
inspiring.
yeah. So I just went to him because I made a connection with him at one of the district conferences, because sometimes people don't want to deal with the big stars. It could be a little scary, it could be a little intimidating. And me being the person that I am, I gonna sign up for everything that could be difficult or challenging. So I said, I want to do this. So we made a connection, and we had a few hours, a few sessions where I got a big insight into how to write a speech and how to formulate things and how to basically write a speech in accordance to the Toastmasters template. Because believe it or not, this is a Toastmasters template, and if you don't get the hang of it, you don't get to win. So there are certain things that the judges are looking at every contest. And if you don't fulfill these criteria that on the judge's ballot, for example, you don't move. Even though your speech is very inspiring, it contains this personal example, and there is this beautiful language use that you're showing, that you're demonstrating, you cannot move forward, you cannot move to the next level until you get the hang of certain things. So this was a little bit frustrating to me. I was like, yeah, another business, another big industry that we have to invest into if we want to actually do something, if you want to get somewhere. Like the TED industry, it's obviously a big industry, and all the world champions, they provide that sort of advice, paid advice, and they are so expensive, but they are this accumulation of knowledge that you can use, that you can actually, it is like a very concentrated knowledge that you get to meet and it's an incredible experience, because I got to learn a lot about speech writing. I got to learn a lot about metaphors and all the different figures of speech. It was an amazing experience, and I failed. I did not make it past the division. This was a very, very frustrating experience to me, and I was like, oh, how come did I spend all this money and I spent all this time with this world champion, and I did not make it past the division? And I was very upset. I was terribly upset, like 2 years ago, and I was like, okay, I'm going to be at the district conference next year. Last year I made a commitment to myself, and I made it to the district conference last year and to the district contest. And this time I worked on my own. I pretty much learned how to write a speech, how the structure of a speech should look like, what kind of figures of speech you need to have, what feelings, because in a 6-minute speech you need to have all the 6 feelings or facial expressions in kind of packed in. So if you want to have this vocal variety, if you want to have this body language opportunities, you need to write your speech in a way that it allows for a lot of body language use, a lot of facial expressions. So it has to be a very dynamic thing. But at the same time, yes, I realize that being authentic is very important, because this is what makes us unique. So I try to make a very animated speech, as you witnessed at our club level, club meeting, club contest. And it was not exactly authentic. It was more kind of animated, and I tried to fit into a template. So I was again frustrated, because I was not thinking that it was so important to me to win. But when I lost, I didn't even place. I thought, oh no, I have to give myself a chance and write another speech. So it took me 3 days to write another speech and actually win at the Saturday Breakfast Speakers.
Wow.
So this is the accumulated knowledge of a couple of years that I managed to put to practice in a very short time and very short space, because I had basically a few hours to write a speech. And it was not a good speech. It was a raw speech which needed a lot of fine-tuning, but it made it at the club contest. So definitely at some point when you do it, and these contests give you the opportunity, even though when you don't place, it gives you the opportunity to learn how to write a good speech.
Wow. So what you've just told me reminds me of a book called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. He talks about the 10,000 hour rule, which is that if you want to be a world class at your profession, world class means you're not going to be maybe the best in the world, but one of the best in the world. Being one of the best is also a very good target to have. And what you've just shared just reminds me of what in the book he mentions about spending time on your craft, spending your hours. He's given a lot of examples. A fantastic book to understand the effort that you're making. Sometimes you lose out on opportunities, and you feel, you're reminding me of that book. You feel that you've lost it and you didn't achieve, you made so much of investment, but in the moment now, if you look back of the 9 years, this is the accumulation that you've just shared, and that is fantastic. I mean, it's so inspiring. So where does it go from here, Mariya? So my question to you is, what's your vision for competition participation? I mean, maybe people who are thinking are on the cusp, should I participate? Is it worth it? It's a lot of time investment. It's a lot of financial investment, obviously, to go to the district conference, division conference, area conference, and obviously for the club conference meetings every week. So what's your vision for competition participation?
My vision, yeah, definitely, because I obviously I've lived from contest to contest, and I do it currently now. And I see this next month until the 13th of April as an opportunity to work on the things that I've been told that I should work, like vocal variety and volume. Volume is not my best friend, but I know I have to work with these things because otherwise I don't get to learn anything. I don't get to when otherwise would I get the chance to actually practice this and work on this and develop it, but now. So I see this next month as this very, very, how do you put it, intense learning, because I know I have a plan that I have to look in at vocal variety, I have to look at volume, I have to look at a few other things. And I see this contest as an exam as to whether I have actually learned these things. So I see this as an opportunity for me to learn and as an opportunity to practice in front of audience, because this will be, even though I've been participating in a division contest twice already, I see this as an opportunity to do it in front of people, because last time it was on camera and I'm very comfortable on camera. This is like I have no problem on camera, but in front of people when everyone is staring and laughing so much, and obviously my speeches are quite entertaining. I did not expect that, but it could
Hmm.
be a little distracting. You kind of well, it could be a little too much, and you can really forget your content while you're kind of looking at people's reactions. So definitely
Yeah,
participating and learning is my vision for the time being.
yes, I remember when Tim Spear was visiting our club. He's the club growth director right now, and he said you've got to enjoy that moment when you hear the clap. You've got to pause. Pause is better than an and an ah and an a filler word. But when you get an opportunity like claps or laughs, you've got to pause. And that actually changed the mode of the whole meeting. And everybody was like, wow, yeah, you got to enjoy that moment as well because it's for you. People have responded to the joke that you made. You don't have to go to the next sentences. Just enjoy that moment. And resonates with what you're saying. And just to let people know, if you want to catch Maria's next participation, she's going to be at the Division B conference on April 13th. She plugged it in, so I'm going to promote it. And it's going to be an amazing event. A lot of good people participating in the speech competition, in the table topic competition, and the evaluation competition. So best of luck for that. Maria, is it okay for people to come to you and say, can you help me make my speech better professionally or in an organization or in Toastmasters? Are you available for that?
Yeah, definitely I am available for that, and anyone who would like to contact me, I would gladly be a mentor. I really enjoy the process of being a mentor, and I really enjoy sharing my knowledge and experience. So whoever wants to contact me to have their speech improved or presentation or whatever advice, just feel free to do so.
Fantastic. So I've just shared the link how to contact Maria on screen. You just have to search for Mariya Bokova and send her a message, and she will respond. LinkedIn is an amazing platform that helps people connect with each other, so use it. So thank you, Maria, for today. Just the last thing, that when Maria wins the division competition, we will see her at the district competition. The district conference in Duisburg, Germany, May 10th to May 12th, 2024. It's going to be an amazing event. Just letting you know, 50% of the tickets have already been sold. So keep it in mind. So, one thing I learned right now is that we need to talk about how to get to Duisburg. So, the airport is Dusseldorf. for people who are flying from outside of Germany. So you look for Dusseldorf, you land there, and then you go to Duisburg via train. It's a very nice journey. It's very comfortable. I have been there when we were planning the event. You can go to the website to purchase the ticket. Just look for District Conference 95. And that is all for today. Thank you for joining. I have learned a lot. I feel like this was a masterclass in speechwriting and competition journey, how to be part of the leadership journey of Toastmasters as a club officer. And it's been amazing. Thank you, Mariya, for sharing. Any last thoughts?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Definitely. I have a lot more to say, but I'm glad I managed to share these insights that I had here. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, everyone. See you in the next podcast. And remember to keep an eye on the district conference. There's a big news coming, and we will be announcing it shortly. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Bye.
Bye.